This wasn't supposed to happen. But seconds ago, everything changed. At 22:17 local time, the Gulf was calm. Too calm. Tanker traffic was steady, radar returns clean, airspace deconflicted down to the meter. Then the flash came. Low on the horizon. A bloom of white light that didn't behave like fuel or a missile. It expanded fast, then collapsed inward like the air itself had been punched. A violent, silent detonation that lit up every sensor in the region. Inside the Regional Air Defense Command Center, the first radar operator froze his cursor over the coordinates. 26 degrees north, 52 east. That's not open water. That's a choke point. One of the busiest oil transit routes on the planet. And whatever just exploded there wasn't supposed to exist. If you look at the radar sweep, the returns don't just spike, they smear, like someone dragged a magnet across the screen. That's wideband, high-energy interference. 30 seconds later, the first complication hit. AIS feeds from commercial vessels in the blast radius started dropping offline. 12 ships vanished from the map. At 22:18, a U.S. Navy destroyer, call sign Viper Actual, reported a pressure wave. It hit the hull like a low-frequency pulse, rattling equipment racks. The commanding officer keyed the net immediately. All stations, we just took a transient shock wave. Origin unknown. Recommend condition yellow. Condition yellow means you don't know what's happening, but you assume it's about to get worse. And it did. At 22:19, airborne early warning picked up movement emerging from the center of the blast zone. Slow at first, then accelerating. No transponder. Radar cross-section inconsistent. Sometimes a small drone, sometimes spiking like a patrol craft. That's either a system glitch or something actively manipulating its signature. The controller leaned closer. Track 771. Confirm you're seeing this? Affirm. Track is real. Velocity increasing. Heading 310. At 22:20, two FA-18E Super Hornets, call signs Razor 11 and Razor 12, were vectored in for intercept at 15,000 feet. Razor 11's pilot switched his radar to narrow beam. I've got intermittent returns, range 28 miles. This thing's jumping, skipping, like frames missing in a video. Except this was real space, real time. Objects don't skip unless your system is being lied to. At 22:21, communications degradation hit. Link 16 updates slowed to 8-second intervals. In a dogfight, that's an eternity. Meanwhile, the missing tanker, Atlas Dawn, suddenly reappeared. 5 miles off position, drifting broadside. No propulsion, no AIS. Razor 11 saw it first. Control. I've got a visual on a tanker. No lights, no movement. Looks abandoned. Any signs of damage? Negative. Hull intact, but, hold on, there's something on the water ahead of it. At 22:22, Razor 12's systems flickered. Altitude readouts fluctuating by hundreds of feet. That's data corruption. Something was messing with avionics directly. Then came the near disaster. At 22:23, Viper Actual detected what it believed was an incoming threat, closing from the blast zone. An anti-ship missile. The problem? That missile was Razor 11, descending to 500 feet. His transponder was masked by interference. To the ship, he wasn't friendly. He was a threat. Viper Actual, hold fire. That's Razor 11. There was a 2-second delay in the comms. 2 seconds where a billion-dollar system had already cued a standard missile for launch. The fire control officer had his finger on the execute. Confirm friendlies. Confirm friendlies. Razor 11 broke hard right, pulling 6 Gs, climbing back through 1,000 feet, just as the destroyer's system reclassified the track. The missile launch was aborted with less than a second to spare. Think about that. One glitch, one misclassification, and you've got a friendly jet turned into debris over open water. But the object, track 771, kept moving. At 22:24, it reached the disturbance zone ahead of Atlas Dawn. And then it stopped. Instantly. Zero deceleration curve. One frame it's moving at 120 knots. The next it's stationary. That violates every aerodynamic principle we know. No wake, no spray, just a hard stop like someone hit pause on reality. Razor 11 leveled off at 800 feet, lining up for a visual pass. I've got something. It's small. Maybe 3 meters across? Metallic. No visible propulsion. Any markings? Negative. It's just hovering. Hovering over water, in the middle of a high interference zone, right after an unexplained explosion. Then it emitted something. Not a missile. Not a flare. A pulse. You can see it if you look at the sensor data. A radial expansion, like a ripple, but not in water. In the electromagnetic spectrum, every frequency spiked simultaneously for 0.2 seconds, and everything died. Razor 11 lost HUD, lost radar, lost comms. For a full second, he was flying blind over dark water at 800 feet. The jet didn't fail. The world around it did. When systems came back, track 771 was gone. No acceleration, no departure vector. Just gone. That's the twist. Whatever caused the explosion wasn't destroyed by it. It used it. At 22:26, secondary effects began to cascade. The tankers that had dropped offline started reporting system failures, navigation errors, engine control glitches. One vessel reported its rudder locking hard to port without input, nearly causing a collision. Air traffic above the Gulf began rerouting. Civilian flights climbing, diverting, avoiding a patch of airspace that didn't exist as a threat. And then intelligence started connecting dots. If you look at historical data, there have been anomalies in this region before. Brief, unexplained sensor interference events, usually dismissed as equipment error or atmospheric oddities. But never this concentrated. The working theory shifted fast. This wasn't an accidental explosion. It wasn't a weapons test gone wrong. It was a demonstration. Of what? That's the question that keeps escalating this situation beyond a single night in the Gulf. Because at 22:30, a second spike was detected. Smaller, shorter, 50 nautical miles north of the first. No visible explosion this time. Just the same signature and the same momentary collapse of every sensor pointed at it. 2 points define a line, and that line runs straight through the heart of global energy supply. By 22:35, naval assets across the region were repositioning. Air patrols doubled. Electronic warfare platforms brought online, trying to isolate the frequency profile of whatever pulse had knocked out systems. But here's the problem. You can't jam something you don't understand. And you can't intercept something that doesn't follow the rules of motion your intercept systems are built around. In the command center, one analyst replayed the initial explosion frame by frame. There, right before the flash, was a distortion. Not light, not heat. A bending, like the air itself was being pulled inward. Then the release. Not a detonation, a transition. If that's true, then what everyone saw as an explosion might have been something entering the environment. That changes everything. Because now you're not asking what exploded, you're asking what arrived, and why here. At 22:40, Razor Flight was ordered to disengage and return to base. Not because the threat was gone, but because they no longer had the tools to safely operate in that airspace. When your instruments lie to you, your training becomes a liability. You trust what you see. If what you see is wrong, you die following it. Viper Actual shifted to a wider perimeter, maintaining distance from the original blast coordinates. The captain made a note in the log. Unidentified phenomenon exhibits active counter-detection capability. Recommend classification beyond conventional threat models. That's military language for, we don't know what this is. And our current systems aren't built to handle it. And then came the aftermath. Global markets reacted within hours. Shipping insurers flagged the Gulf as a high-risk zone. Tanker traffic slowed. Not stopped, but hesitant. Every captain now had to consider the possibility that the water ahead could turn their instruments into noise without warning. Satellite imagery in the following hours showed no debris field at the initial explosion site. No oil slick. No wreckage. Just normal water. Except everything had. Because now, every naval commander in the region is operating with a new variable. An unknown that can appear without warning, disrupt every system they rely on, and disappear just as quickly. And if you think that's the end of it, look closer at the data from 2252. A third anomaly, smaller still, but this time closer to shore. Inside territorial waters. Same signature, same pulse. No explosion. Just a message. Whatever this is, it's not testing power anymore. It's testing proximity. And the next time it arrives, it might not choose open water.